So in this question, we have like two 5-digit numbers, AMC 10 and AMC 12, and their sum is 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2. We want to know what is A plus M plus C. So this is also a pretty common type of question where they give you like some like they kind of like encode like these numbers in terms of letters, and they tell you, oh, if you add these two together, if you add them, then you get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2. So one like you get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2 if you add them together. So we want to find what is A, M, and C, or in other words, we want to find like the sum of A, M, and C, right? So like I guess like to do this, you kind of just do it directly, right? So like you first start at this column here, like this right column, right? You just do normal addition. 0 plus 2 is 2. Okay, that's cool. Like that doesn't really give you any information. So we can move on to the next column. 1 plus 1 and 1 gives 2. Again, that's not very interesting. Like that's pretty obvious. So let's move on to the next column. And this column is a little more interesting, right? We have C plus C is like as a unit digit of 4. So our first instinct might be like, oh, C plus C is 4, so C must be 2, right? Like that's what we probably think the first time. So we might say, oh, C is 2. But then like that might like seem good until we look at the next column, right? M plus M has to give 3. But like that doesn't really make sense, right? Because then M would have to be like 1.5. That doesn't really make sense. You can't have a decimal digit. That doesn't make any sense. So like clearly that tells us that C couldn't be 2. Like we must have made a mistake somewhere. So it turns out we know that like M plus M, if that's equal to 3, then we're gonna get a decimal digit. So the only possible way to not get a decimal digit is if we have like a carry, right? So notice that if like C is 7, then we get like 7 plus 7. That gives 14. So that's where the 4 comes from, and then we carry a 1. That way, M won't be like a decimal digit. So like C equals 7 would give us like a valid possibility. So in that case, we can let M, if we let M equal 1, right? Because we have 1 plus M has to equal 3. So 2M has to equal 2. So M equals 1. So now if we just let M equal 1, then like you would have like this M is 1 and M is 1. And in that case, 1 plus 1 plus 1 would give you 3. And then now we can look at this last column. A plus A gives 2. So again, our first instinct might be, oh, A must be 1. But in that case, then we kind of leave out this 1 on the very end, which doesn't really make sense. So the only way to fix that is if A is equal to 6, right? Because if A is equal to 6, 6 plus 6 is 12. So you have a 2, and then we kind of carry a 1. So that's where the 1 comes from. So that tells us that like A must be equal to 6. And then everything works out fine. So like if you want to verify 61710 plus 61712, if you were to add these, like sometimes like it might be a good idea to check it again. Yeah, and we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2. So sometimes in these kinds of questions, after you do a bunch of logic, it might be a good idea to like, once you get all the letters, once you find out what all the letters are, it might be a good idea just to like, replace all those letters with numbers and just quickly do a quick check to make sure that like the sum or like that it indeed does meet the conditions. Because sometimes maybe you're so involved in the logic that you get lost and like you confuse yourself. So it might be a good idea to sometimes just like check it at the end. So now that we've checked it and it seems right, we want to find A plus M plus C. So 7 plus 1 plus 6. And that'd give you like 14, which should be the right answer, which is E. Basically, so this question was, yeah, so you just this is a very common kind of question where, they'll give you some letters and stuff, and they tell you, oh, if you were to add these things together, you get something, you want to find the missing digits. And I guess the strategy is to, just play around with the numbers and just like start with start with stuff and like kind of like just logically deduce stuff like what we did here, basically.